you are the creator of this book. Nobody is going to know about your book unless you tell them. They don't know about your book unless you open up your mouth and say something. You know, we've come into this time now, everybody wants to hide behind the camera, but no, sometimes you got to get out there and hustle, and you got to get out there and work, and you have to get out there and talk to people, and you have to tell people, look, I've created this book, and I think it will be beneficial.
Welcome to the Pen by Design podcast. I'm your humble host, Destiny Jordan, and here on this podcast, we delve into the craft of writing, publishing, and tips and strategies of being a creative entrepreneur. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pen by Design. Today, we have the illustrious Nikishea Robinson, also known as K.L. Sterling. So prepare to be inspired by K.L. Sterling, a captivating author known for transformational works like Reigning Your Vision Through Depression and the impactful I'm Enough. Beyond her literary prowess, Nikishea hosts the thought-provoking Real Advice in Relationships podcast, an extension to her empowering book as well. Delving into the complexities of relationship, Nikishea offers profound insights for self-discovery and self-acceptance. Motivated by her past patterns of choosing emotionally distant partners, she embarked on a journey of understanding, unearthing the roots of her insecurities tied to her father's rejection. In this process, she stumbled upon her true self, finding liberation through self-affirmation. I'm Enough, written from a Christian perspective, transcends faith, guiding readers to a transformative inward journey. Nikishea's mission is clear: to awaken individuals to their intrinsic value and purpose, empowering them as they navigate life's beautiful tapestry. Stay tuned for our conversation that promises to ignite inspiration and spark transformation. Here's my wonderful guest, Nikishea Robinson. Hey! So I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because your work has just been wonderful. And also just your journey. You've been doing a lot of cool things that no one knows about. So I know since you're an author, a speaker, a writing consultant, a freelance writer, journal connoisseur, it's got all this going on. Like with most authors. So one of my questions is kind of what made you start to write I'm Enough?
What inspired I'm Enough, or the reason why I started writing I'm Enough was it was kind of, I wouldn't say it was an accident, so to speak, but it started off just me journaling. So the book started off simply just by me journaling, writing out my feelings, writing out my emotions. And it wasn't until about a couple of years in to journaling, I just was like, I should turn this into a book. Now, mind you, I had already knew that I would want to write a book one day when I was younger, because I used to love to write when I was young, like poetry and just expressing myself, right? So I always knew that I wanted to write a book. So maybe like a couple of years into journaling, I decided to turn it into a book.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. Now, how you did your book was through self-publishing and not traditional way. You explain like why you kind of chose that over like just getting an agent and having your agent help you publish it and all that jazz?
Okay, so the reason why I chose the self-publishing route and not the traditional route was because at that time, when I published the book, I had like 1,000,001 things going on. And the message was more important to me than to the journey of going through different publishing, companies, getting a literary agent, trying to find different companies that will publish me and things like that. So I really did not want to go through the whole traditional route because, again, I had a lot of things going on and I really wanted the message to get out at the time that it got out. I was not willing to wait and things of that nature. So that's why I chose to go the self-publishing route.
That's really cool. Kind of walk us through your process then. How did you go from, hey, I've got all this in my journal, and hey, this is time to turn into a book? How did you go from your journal to actually having a live book out into the world?
Oh, the process of that was, it was kind of wonky a little bit because it was a journal. So the first thing I had to do was structure the book, right? I had to get it in some type of direction. And so what I decided to do was I was going to make it a self-help type memoir style almost type of book. So it had a lot of moving pieces in it. So I ended up putting it into chronological order. That's where I first started when I got ready to structure it, right? And so I started it maybe from age 19 all the way up to age 27, I believe. So it rings to me of a memoir, so to speak, because it was a time period, as a time frame, right? It wasn't like a full drawn out, my entire life. So even though I did get bits and pieces of maybe like a sentence or a paragraph or two of things that I experienced like before that age, but the majority of the book is based off of a specific age time period in my life. So that was my first step during the process of just getting it structured and everything, because I didn't even do an outline. Because when you first start a book, the initial process, what they tell you to do is to start an outline. So I kind of did mine almost a little bit out of order in the traditional sense. So yeah, like I didn't have an outline or anything. So after I got through structuring it in that way, I decided to enlist the help of like just people around me. Hey, I have this idea for this book, and can you help me with it? So it literally started off like 297 pages, and most of which I did not even need. Like, I mean, my sister was helping me. I had a friend was helping me, and my sister's coworker at the time, she ended up jumping on board and helping me with this project. As a matter of fact, she's just like my full-time editor. That's my go-to editor now, because like she's actually editing my third book now. So I got her on board, and these are professional women that I trust, or just women in general that I trust with my project, right? So yeah, they got on board, and they were just like, hey, your subjects and your verbs don't agree right here. You got a conjugate verb here. You got some contractions and a run-on sentence mixing and matching. And so, yeah, so once they got me together there, I was able to go back and do some more work after they had gave me their opinions, and this was back and forth for years, right? So yeah, like this process took years. So yeah.
Well, I just love your dedication to the process, because when you just said years working on just the first book, and I do think that is more enlightening, because I think everyone says like when your first book comes out, it's just like boom, bam, it's done. But I think the first book is your longest book because you're still trying to figure it out. Like, how do you even do that?
Yes. It's, it's so crazy, Destiny, because every time I finish with a project, I tell myself I will never do this again, because it is so time consuming. It is so, it is rewarding, but it's not easy, I guess you could say. Well, it wasn't easy for me. I think it just depends, because some people, they can just boom, 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 boom. And I think this book took so long because it was therapeutic. It was a lot of places inside of myself that I had to go that I never wanted to revisit again. And so I think for me, that's why it took so long for this book to happen for me. The other two books, they were not as nearly as grueling as the first book. So, but yeah.
And that was so cool. So reading the book now to saying where it actually started as a big memoir, I'm like, wow, that just transformed everything. That this became a story, but it started as a memoir, and that's really awesome. So it's really like you get to pull, and I guess with any type of, when you're publishing your works, you get to put it out there however you want to, and no one really have to know where you started from.
Yes. And a lot of times people, I'll say this, a lot of times people will see the finished product, but they don't see the work and the effort and the time that goes into it. I'm fortunate enough right now, like I'm able to, if I want to, if my creative juices get to flowing at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I could write freely, and just take that time and do that. And I did that with this third book, but they see the finished project, but they don't know it is a lot of work that goes into it. Like I'm working on some stuff now here, right? Like people don't see this, right? They just see the finished project, the finished project. So, but yeah, so it's a lot of work, but again, it is so rewarding. It's well worth it. And I think people should definitely, if they feel the need that they want to write a book, to do so.
And so, what was one of the instances, like, as you're writing your book, that you kind of, what's one of, I guess, moments you had to kind of get over, any obstacle you had to get over while you were creating this book and like on this writing project to eventually publish?
You said, what were the obstacles?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you this much. The most important obstacles, or the obstacles that mattered the most, were the people that were in the book. And people don't understand, when you write a book that's based off of your life, or loosely based off of your life, it entails all the characters, right? All the people that were around you that had a hand in the events that you are talking about, right? So I think for me, the biggest obstacles were making sure that my family was okay with the things that I was writing about, because, most of the people that I meet, they want to write a book about their lives and, their journey and stuff like that. And I feel like everybody should be able to tell their story. But when I think of obstacles, you have to go to, Thanksgiving is coming up, right? You have to realize you have to go to Thanksgiving dinner. You have to go to Christmas dinner. You have all of these things, the family barbecue, the family vacation, or, you have to still see your family after, after the book is over with. So I would say my biggest obstacles were making sure that they were okay with the things that I had to say. And I will say that the first rough draft, not the first rough draft, but I take that back. Probably about the second or the third rough draft, I finally let, like people in my circle read it. And so I had to, because there were things about my life that also affected their life. So I had to rearrange some stuff. And so I had to be willing to be flexible, and I had to be willing to be understanding that you can share your journey, but other people still have a right to their own privacy, right? So those were some obstacles that I had to overcome. And I always tell myself, long as I'm using different characters, location, time, dates, and everything else, I'm going to say what it is I got to say, So, but yeah, just enough to keep me out of court, a whole lot to keep me out of court. But yeah, so those were the main obstacles.
Right. So Your life story can be told, but keep an eye out, folks. Change a lot of things, like they do in movies. It's based off of.
Yes.
Said quotation marks. If you can't see us, if you're not watching the video, we are doing quotation marks.
Loosely and allegedly, a whole lot of that. Yeah. But.
Mm-hmm. So now you've reached the finish line. You've published your book, and how has writing your book opened up more opportunities for you and your message?
Oh, I would say it has opened up a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities. I am able to go and speak to schools now. I'm able to go to speak to classrooms, to girls. Yeah, so that's something that I'm really passionate about, and that is speaking, not only just telling my story, but telling it in a way, as I do in the book, telling it in a way where people are able to see themselves in the book. So it's not about me taking you on my journey with me. It's about being a reflection of, maybe something you are dealing with. And I'm able to do that in speaking engagements that I'm invited to. I'm able to better connect with my audience. And I've also, not only am I doing speaking engagements, I also have been able to create my own podcast. I've been able to create networks with other authors and create relationships. You and I have connected. Well, we go to church together, but we've also connected on a different type of level now, right? So just as fellow writers. So it's created a lot more opportunities for me. And I do have a radio show too that's coming out, but based out of Columbus, Mississippi. So that's going to be another opportunity that came based off of the book. So it's opened a lot of doors for me, and I'm excited to see where it continues to take me.
That is amazing, for one. And it just shows the power of not even just telling your story, to publish a book, to do the hard work to get it out there, whether it's a certain story or your life story or a fiction story. Just getting your own message out there opens up the world to something you just don't see.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true, Destiny. A lot of times and I'll say this, a lot of times we are so driven by the money aspect. Well, nobody's going to buy it. Like, how much money can I make off of it? And I get it, because, we are an economic driven society. So I understand the logic of it. But I always tell people that, that I may be coaching, or somebody I may be encouraging to write their own story. They may be asking me for advice. I always tell them, you have to follow your own conviction. The price that you are paid, you may be paid in a way that transcends money. I always say creativity, it has its own lane. Artsy people, we have our own lane. Creative spaces, there is no price on creative space. Like, we try to put a price tag on it. But what about the joy that you've been looking for? What about the happiness that you may be wanting, or that peace you may be wanting? The creator's reward is different from man's reward. We look at the money sometimes, but what about the benefits that comes with being obedient in publishing your book? It doesn't matter. It's sometimes obedience is better. The good book tells us obedience is better than sacrifice, So a lot of times you may have to sacrifice. Okay, well, people around you may not want to read a love story. They may not want to read a fantasy story, but there is an audience for it, and you may get you some peace, some joy, some rest, and just, I just believe in that. I believe you will be rewarded for the things that you do, and it may not come in the price of money. It may come in the price of other things that transcends dollar signs.
Agreed on that. That is kind of where I feel like we're creators. It's like a fear base, because you want to do something, but then you have this giant neon sign of society saying, or maybe family or whatever that may be, saying, no, this is the straight and narrow path. This is what you follow. There's no time for this other stuff that you want to do. That's just creative outlet because there's nothing. It's hard to see what's worth in the time of you doing it.
That's so true. That's a conversation my students and I have constantly. I'm constantly on them. Like, you guys are 18. You're 19. This is the foundation for your life. You don't have a lot of major responsibilities, so make sure that you're not just chasing a bag. Everybody out here getting a bag. Make sure that you love and enjoy what it is that you're doing, because a large, not just part of our population, but a large part of the world is getting up and going to jobs that they absolutely hate because they're doing things that they're not passionate about. They're doing things that they don't enjoy doing, you know? So yeah, like I feel like that's very, very, very important that you incorporate your gifts, your talents, and your passions into your daily life, because if you don't, you can suffer greatly from it. And writing is my passion.
Here, I'm with you on that one. I said, I want to go back a little bit to you. So you were talking about you do speaking engagements. Can you tell me, I guess, one story from your speaking engagements? How did it go? Where did you get a chance to speak at?
Okay, so I've spoken at high schools. I've spoken to middle-aged school girls. One of my regular places that I would speak at was a middle school of troubled youth girls. And I would just go and talk with them on a weekly basis. Did that for a little while, and then the pandemic happened, and I just never reconnected with that. But yeah, I normally do high school, middle school girls. I've done some elementary school age girls, and that was pretty interesting. I find myself, I can get a little bit overwhelmed, if that makes sense. And when I say that, I get overwhelmed, not when I'm speaking, but after it's over with, because I remember the struggles when I was 15. I remember the struggles when I was 16 or when I was 10 or 9, and just trying to find your way and find your identity. And my book is titled I'm Enough. And so they are faced with so much more obstacles. They are faced with so much more temptation. They are faced with so much more information that their mind can hardly process. And the people that I talk to generally have a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. They have identity issues because they are thrust into this world that is telling them what they're supposed to think, how they're supposed to behave and act. And you should not want to be yourself. You're supposed to want to be like this person. And it's telling us that we're supposed to be like everybody else instead of who God is calling us or who he created us to be. And that's a big problem that we have in our society. And so that's why I feel like every time I speak, it fills my heart. But after it's over with, after you have, poured into other people, you walk away with that feeling of, I hope that I was able to help somebody, but I also can feel the hurt and not just the loneliness, but the rejection, all of those things that I talk about in the book, all of those emotions that I talk about in the book, I take that with me when I leave, because I feel it and I sense it and I see it, and they tell me that some of the things that they struggle with. So yeah, that's one of the things that I do when I talk to young girls of various ages.
And that's really awesome. And that's just kind of another gateway. I feel it just seems like sometimes you just never know how far your story will reach, whether it's your actual story or a fiction story based on something that may have actually happened, and how it can just resonate and free other people from their similar struggles.
Absolutely. You just never know. And I promise you, Destiny, I just was just like, I just wanted to be obedient and just put the story out there, again, respecting other people's privacy, but giving so much of myself. There's a lot that didn't go into the book, of course, because we started at 297, and when we ended up with, I think, 122 pages or something another. And then when they sized it on a 6x9, I think it was ended up being like 79 pages, 78 pages, something like that. So it's a little tight, but it's big. It's little, but it's big at the same time.
Most definitely, everyone, you should read her book. It is quite like, woo, like it's for real. There's no fluff in there. But one thing I did was also really thought was really cool when I visited your site is that you had the print book, you had the audio book, and you had your ebook. And with everything going on with kind of people with getting out their words, is a big thing on like distributing, having multiple versions or formats of your work for different types of readers. And one of the questions, you have audiobook, that's been a big one because a lot of people say audiobook is very hard to do because that's the most expensive one to do, of hiring someone to literally read your book and then make audio files and upload them to the distributors of audio file like Audible and Findaway and all those places. And that's a cost, too much cost for most beginning authors. But your audiobook sounds really well. So how did you find your audiobook narrator?
Ooh, okay. I found my audiobook narrator. I was going around Googling different narrators, voice actors, and I went across a few sites, and I ended up finding, her name is Monica. I ended up finding her on Fiverr. And when I tell you, my brain was super tired because it took me days. And I'm low key a perfectionist, just a little bit. Okay, maybe a whole lot, but I'm a perfectionist. And it took me days before I found her. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's it. When I heard her voice, like I knew that was the person that I wanted to narrate the book. And so she and I, we conversed and everything through Fiverr and stuff. And we ended up actually talking later, like through Instagram. And we ended up building like this relationship and all this kind of stuff. And, she was just like, oh my goodness. She was like, I don't know what I expected when I took the job. She said, but this is a really good book. Like, this is really, this is eye-opening for me. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm so happy. Like, I'm always happy that it can do something for somebody else. So, like I went through Fiverr and found her. She's on Fiverr and she does like commercials and all of these cool things. So she's a very, very talented voice actress. And I was so fortunate to find her. And I definitely, she comes highly recommended. So yeah.
So with her being your voice, is it where you just pay her the one time for the job, or do you guys split the revenue from the book sales on the audiobook?
Yes, I pay her one time for the sale for the job, and then after that, you host it to whatever audio site you would like. I use Audible. And they keep a portion, of course, they keep a portion of your revenue to host it and distribute it and things like that. So, but yeah, yeah, it's just a one-time payment.
Okay, then. So if someone wants to say like, hey, I got my book written and I want to touch an audio because I like podcasts. I just like that version. What would you say they had to like go ahead and find a voice actor? What do you say should be like kind of their budget for that?
It depends. It just really depends. I would say because they've gone up since then. That was like 2015, right? So 2023, they're probably double or triple the price now. So you can always, I would say probably back then, $500 maybe, $500, 500 to maybe 900. But now it just depends on the person's budget. It depends on their budget, what they're willing to spend. But I will say this much: make sure that you are open to people. If you really, really, really want to do it, be open to doing two things. One, be open to when you're looking for a narrator, be open to get people from different countries. Because I have had other people from other countries that were also a contender, to do the book, to narrate the book as well. And oh my gosh, they sounded amazing. And as far as like the audio quality, and it wasn't hard to really understand them because of their accent and things of that nature. But I know, some people are just kind of captivated by other accents, like a British accent or maybe like a Jamaican accent or things like that. So, but I knew that the book was an urban experience. So I kind of wanted to make sure that I chose someone who could deliver that. So that's how I ended up choosing her. But be open to, choosing people that may be abroad. The second thing I would recommend is be willing to do it yourself. Like, it is okay. Like, a lot of times people allow themselves to, they stop themselves almost, right? So you can speak clearly. Like, if we're talking, let's just say we're at a cafe or something, or we're just talking, we're hanging out, we're just catching up. You say precisely what it is that you want to say, right? When you're speaking to like a good girlfriend or associate or acquaintance or a family member, you speak clearly and say what it is that you want to say. Now, this is the Toastmaster in me, because I'm they call me Madam Secretary. I'm a member of Toastmasters, Summit Toastmasters speaking club. So I'm always encouraging people to use their voice, because for a long time I was afraid of mine. But I would say be willing to record your book yourself. Like, you have a phone, you have a computer, get a little bit more storage, a little bit more data or something like that. Record it and go put it over in the Google Drive. Google Drives are free, right? I mean, your Google storage. So just be willing to, if you can't afford it, if you don't have the money, just see what you sound like. And it's okay. It is okay.
Right on, right there. That is really awesome. Kind of use what you have at hand, and it's okay.
Yes. And you probably could hire somebody to redo it later down the line. I'm not saying just record something and it's, horrible and just put it out. But I will say what I've learned along the journey, sometimes, Destiny, we stop ourselves. Like, we get in our own way. We tell ourselves, like, you can't do that. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. Like, you're unable to do that. Like, I was so insecure about my Southern accent, I would not dare record that book back in 2015. But I would do it now. Like, I have the confidence to do it now, right? And I'm gonna save myself a whole bunch of money.
So that would be a great book. And people love hearing from the actual author, them reading their book.
You are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct.
So, I may put that. So that's always an option, folks. You can go ahead and do it yourself. Go to YouTube University, learn how to do audio and learn how to do all this stuff. There's a lot of free options. Audacity, Reaper, free things to fix up audio, and have yourself a time.
Absolutely. Agreed.
So I also had a question about, besides your wonderful narrator, because I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, is how do you distribute your book? So how do you choose how do people distribute your book on your website? Because I think I saw Lulu, Audible, KDP. How do you make those type of choices rather than going all the way or just picking a few?
Okay, so what I ended up doing, I ended up choosing a distributor that did global distribution. Like I didn't want someone that would limit me just based on our country alone here in the United States. And so when I was looking for a distributor, for me at the time, Lulu worked best for me. So that's who I chose to go with. And they had, to me, the authors had more benefits by using them as a distributor. So that's how I end up choosing Lulu as my place to distribute my book. Now this time it'll be a little different, but I may not choose them this go round. But yeah, that's how I ended up choosing them because it was more benefits to me as a self-published author.
Right. That's really true because nowadays the buzzword has been direct sales. So when you start off, have a quick website or not even a website, just have a little link, like a square link so people can buy your book and straight from you.
Absolutely.
So that has been the key buzzword of direct sales because you only get a portion from distributors anyway, which whether it be 60% or 70%, depending on your price. And I've seen a lot of people start to move away from KDP or off of Amazon into doing other places. Have you seen that as well with some of your other writer friends?
I have. I've seen that with people that I know, and then I hear them talk about, people that they associate with that are publishing books that are kind of getting away from using Amazon and KDP and just kind of just cutting that out altogether. And then just like you said, just have a little link and then you can connect easily directly with your audience. And so, yeah, I've been seeing that a whole lot.
So it's okay. You can make money off of KDP and Amazon. It's a real thing.
Yep.
Also, the kind of backtrack on that one is you have a lot. So on your website, you have a lot of different cool stuff on there that I think authors and just creators in general should be promoting. So besides your books, you have apparel. Have a t-shirt. I should have had it on, but her t-shirt is really comfy. It says "I'm enough," and then you talked about journals. I'm doing journals and things like that, and the ebook, and then all these other different things. So why should authors kind of have more than one, more than one type of product based off of their book or books?
Well, I think it only makes sense from a marketing and promotional standpoint. So for me, it was a no-brainer because the title of the book, I'm enough, now had it been like a title like, Werewolf Slayer, now that would have been a little different to market, and put on a t-shirt. But I will say this, if you are a true hustler, you can put that, Werewolf Slayer and put it on there and find your audience, right? Because there are people that really are into like that genre that you would be writing in, so to speak, right? So I think it is important from just a marketing and promotional standpoint to have other products to go along with your book. but your book and the contents of your book definitely needs to always be on point.
Make that know the book needs to be good to at least afford the other things you're going to add on top of it. Because even if you do have one book, you can go so many different avenues to attract people to it. And that's where I'm like, you know what? That was really cool. I thought that was really out of the box of having a shirt, having a book, and maybe a journal. Also, you have a music single on Apple Music. I was like, oh my gosh, like just everywhere. That's really cool.
Yes, I do. I was just inspired. Like, I love motivational. I'm just listening to like motivational tracks sometimes if I'm getting ready. Like, I love listening to music, of course, but sometimes I need me a little judge, I need a little motivation. So I love motivational tracks, and I just decided to like, hey, one of my favorite motivational speakers, well, two of my favorite motivational speakers is Les Brown, and the other one is E.T. Eric Thomas. I love to listen to Eric Thomas, right? He has that fire in his belly. So I was just like, you know what? Like, and I literally recorded it myself. And my nephew, Ladarius Robinson, Ladarius, and he's an audio engineer, and he made the sounds for me. And I was just like, hey, I told him what I wanted to do. I was like, hey, I want to talk about depression. I want to, like motivate somebody who may be going through a slump, right? Who may be depressed. And I made an audio track. And that was a additional product that I created to go along with the free ebook, Regaining Your Vision Through Depression.
See, look at that, folks. It's like ask people around you. Just never know what you have and what you can create. Because I feel like so long authors have been like, you got a book and that's about it. Like there's nothing else on the table but your book. And this way I feel like, as you're saying, from marketing and promoting, you're filling your table. So now everyone will be intrigued. If you don't get the people who read books, you get the people who like shirts. If they don't like shirts, they like music at least. It's a little bit for everybody.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct about that.
So that's really inspired me because for my upcoming book, I'm like, you know what? I want to do something like that because that sounds really cool. And since I'm already podcasting, I was like, let me go ahead and see if I can figure some things out here.
Yes, I think you should try it. What? I mean, like, what could it hurt? It couldn't hurt.
That's true. Really couldn't. I was like, might as well go ahead and try. And so I feel like also with your whole like author journey, it just feels like I feel like you give more room to create. Like there's just doing different things, trying different things. As with any type of business, you're experimenting, you're trying it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't. But it didn't hurt you, didn't hurt anybody else. We just know it doesn't work for whatever you were trying to do at the time.
Absolutely. Just try. Just treat it like a spaghetti string, a cooked noodle. Just throw it against the wall and see what sticks. Just try it.
That's true. Also, you had saw stickers. I was like, you have stickers?
Yes, I do. I think my mom was helping me with my promotion for a while. So yeah, I do.
I was like, that is so cool. Even for someone like me, you will have me because I love stickers. I was like, oh, you got stickers? Here I go.
Yes.
So how did you guys make those?
Well, hey, I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I like to use Etsy, and yeah, I like stuff like that. So yeah, you find somebody who's creative, and you can just tell them what it is that you're looking for, or something like that. Hey, I like this. Can you make this for me? And this, that, and the third. So, and they may give you a deal when you buy in bulk. So
that's really cool. And also, you can do. I think one time I tried it on Canva. I made some business stickers just to see how they've turned out, and they're actually good quality. I think it was $15 for a nice little bundle.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
So like that was like that's not. You brought that back when I saw like, oh my gosh, you have stickers. I was like, you can do stickers for your book. Why not?
It won't hurt. It will not hurt.
Now I want to see if I can try to do custom made bookmarks through Canva now. So that'll just be easy. I hope it'll be easy.
Oh, you can do anything through Canva. Anything.
I feel like that's the place to go. Just like you want to do something, just try it on Canva. It's probably in there somewhere.
Exactly.
Speaking of promoting books, how do you exactly promote your books? So what's kind of your process when you're like, hey, I'm going to buckle down and I'm going to promote XYZ book? Or when you're doing a book launch?
Okay. So when you are doing a book launch, traditionally they tell you need to start marketing 6 months before the book even drops. You need to create buzz around the book. And what I found that helped me out a lot was actually when I did the podcast, or when I would create videos, or when I would go on live on Facebook or what have you. And I would talk about subjects that I felt like, people wanted to hear, that may have been a portion or a topic out of the book. It's not the whole thing of the book, but it's a section of the book. And so I would talk about relationships or what have you, right? And so yeah, that's what I would do. Go on Facebook. I would do lives. I would do videos. Other ways that you could promote your book. You can actually go to different events that are looking for vendors, and don't just do any event that are looking for vendors, because that may not be your target audience. So you want to be sure, you want to know who your audience is, and you want to make sure that when you are setting up your table to go to trade shows or go to different events and things of that nature, that your audience is there, people who you want to sell your book to. I mentioned trade shows. That's a way you can get your book out there to promote it and everything. But yeah, so I just say doing different events, talking to people, even when you're in person, telling them about your book, word of mouth. People are so shy and they don't want to open up their mouth, and and I'm like that. Like sometimes I'm out and about and I'm like, my mom would be like, well, did you tell such and such about your book? You was like, what? I didn't even think about that. So I don't always have my hustle like up here. Like I'm not always hustling, trying to sell books and stuff. Sometimes I'm just making a genuine connection. But word of mouth, you cannot beat word of mouth. You probably can even do car magnets, and put them on your car. I feel like that's an affordable way also to promote your book, right? Another way you can do book promotion is having different book signings, connecting with other authors, going on their podcast, uh, and things of that nature. But I will say book signings. This is what I want to say about that. Yeah, you can do book signings. Go to your local libraries in your areas and talk to the staff there. See about if you can get them to purchase your book, or if you can just donate a book, and then tell people, hey, you can go check my book out at, Tuscaloosa Public Library or Birmingham Public Library, just whatever, wherever you may want to donate your book or get them to purchase your book. So I feel like that's a good way also to promote your book.
Okay. So it's kind of just like get it out there, at least keep talking about it, because your book can be new to somebody else because they're new to you, they're new to your ecosystem of books. So your book is always new to somebody.
Oh, What's your cash app? You just said a whole word. It's new to somebody. You preaching tonight, so I feel like I need to just cash app you. But yes, that is so true. You are the creator of this book. Nobody is going to know about your book unless you tell them. They don't know about your book unless you open up your mouth and say something. You know, we've come into this time now, everybody wants to hide behind the camera, but no, sometimes you got to get out there and hustle, and you got to get out there and work, and you have to get out there and talk to people, and you have to tell people, look, I've created this book, and I think it will be beneficial. Or I just, I feel like it'll be a great read. I feel like this is, something, giving the students an option to read, it just depends on, if you are doing a children's book. There are some people that have amazing children's book, and they need to be in some elementary schools, So I think we have to open up our mouth and let people know about our projects, and don't shy away from, well, they'll reject me, or they won't carry my book. There is a yes waiting on the other side of that no. You just got to keep fighting to get to it and not give up.
Most definitely. In the words of my great grandmother, a closed mouth don't get fed.
They don't. Yes, grandma.
That's what we should tell us all the time.
Yes. People don't know unless you tell them.
That is true. And so I'm really excited about really kind of unpacking the book. Mm-hmm. And so what was kind of my big question is kind of what gave you the strength and courage to kind of overcome your own trauma?
What gave me the strength and the courage? What gave me the strength and courage to overcome my own trauma, or better yet, face it? Because I feel like that's that ugly beast that never really just goes away, because it always can have the propensity to come back and rear its ugly head. Yes, it does. What gave me the courage to face it so that I could overcome it was I knew that I wanted a better life for myself. I knew that I deserved better. I knew that I wanted better for myself, and I was willing to go and get it. I didn't want to feel the way I felt anymore. Like that, I have had plenty of heart to hearts with God. Like I didn't ask for any of this. None of us asked to be here. So I know that each of us have a purpose. I have a purpose. So I need for you to help me. Every day we're not going to feel good. Every day is just not going to be a good day. That's not reality. Even though we project that, that's not reality. So I wanted a better life for myself. I knew that I deserved better, and I was willing to go and get it. I had already been feeling bad, so I'm just like, what do I have to lose by going to fight to go and get it, right? So I was willing to go and get it because I was tired of feeling bad. That's it.
And that's really powerful. It's kind of like when you reached the end of your rope, and that was where, like, you know what? I'm going to turn around for me and for my life.
Yes. Because you deserve it. A lot of people don't believe that they deserve it. You deserve it. Because God makes no mistakes. He doesn't. Not when it comes to his creation. He just, we are all here for a purpose.
So can you give you an example of what is your healing process like? For you to get from where you were to where you are now?
You're going deep a little bit, Destiny. A little deep. What was the healing process like? The healing process was up, it was down, it was therapeutic, it was a lot of crying, it was a lot of snotting, it was a lot of, feeling like a victim some days when I was just writing the story, when I was even now, like I don't cry about it. Like I'm relaunching Enough, and I'm going through and I'm doing my edits now, and it's like I'm not crying about it. But the first time, that was part of the process. But this time, I'm just looking for, things that I can change or things that I can update or, things that I can put in there now or just reword, rephrase, so I can better take my readers along the process, their own process, because I've gone through that process already, right? So, it's not new to me. So, but the process, it was painful. It was hard. And, but again, I was already low. So it was really nowhere else for me to go, just cry it out, snot it out and just get up and keep going or find the right road and go on that road.
That's really good. It's like far as just really taking the steps and understanding it's a process. Like no one's going to be, as they say, Rome was built in a day, and so the process won't take a day. It may take more than a couple of days.
It was not. It was not. It was not built in a day, and it's a process.
And so what from going on your own personal journey and Nikki's journey as your protagonist and your story, what's kind of the best way for people to kind of combat some unresolved trauma? What do you think they can put in their toolbox of saying, how can I at least combat this or get better for this?
I think I would say being able to be honest, being able to be transparent, being able to be vulnerable, and being able to do that offline. That makes sense. Being able to put in the work when nobody's looking. Being able to do those things without being under a microscope and allowing yourself to feel all of the emotions that come with healing. You're going to hurt before you heal. That's just part of any process. And so I think that just being able to be honest and saying, hey, I need help. I don't know where to start, And I tell my students all the time, like, if you're dealing with something, let somebody know. Let somebody know. Because you can get the help that you need. You may not be able to help yourself, but if you tell somebody, they can get you the help that you need. They can point you in the right direction. They can put you on the right road. They can go on that journey with you to healing. But you have to be able to be transparent and you have to be able to be honest. So that's what I would say.
True words spoken right there. And one of the things, since you had one of your books, Regaining Vision Through Depression, was how do people talk about depression in a healthy way?
Ooh, okay. How do people talk about depression in a healthy way? Well, I think when you look around, people are starting to be more transparent and more vulnerable in admitting saying that, yeah, I dealt with depression. I gave a talk. My sister always say, this is your practice run to a TED talk. And I was like, okay, go ahead and speak it into existence. I had to go to UAB, to our Toastmasters Club there and give a speech about depression, right? And one thing that I have learned is that depression is something people are not talking about. Because according to the World Health Organization, depression is the second leading cause of disabilities worldwide, following heart disease. So what that tells me, and this was in 2018, the end of 2019, excuse me. So this was way before, the pandemic happened. People have ailing hearts and minds. People are just not for it to be the second leading cause of disability worldwide, that tells me a lot of people are not making it okay to say, I'm not okay. Like, people are not talking about this stuff the way that they should. I mean, it's not as taboo as it used to be years ago, but I feel like we're getting there. And again, like I said before, a healthy way to talk about it is just being honest and being transparent. And it's okay to not be okay. And if you are around people that are abusing you or saying, well, just get over it, I had a hard life, or, people that are not compassionate to your situation, it's this thing called building your circle. Now, I am not talking about building, circle for people that's just gonna pit you in your pity. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying people that are going to acknowledge the pain and the trauma and the emotions that you are feeling, and that are willing to go on that journey with you and root you on and cheer you on and be there for you and encourage you along the journey, right? So you may have to find you a therapist. You may need to talk to a spiritual counselor or something to that magnitude. Tell your doctor, like, and I know I get flack, like about it from some people, because there is a segment of population that feels like there's a pill out there for everything, which there is almost, but but, in having a healthy conversation about depression, if you don't have that safe space within your immediate circle, you may need to tell your doctor, because we don't know how far this thing goes, right? So just being honest and transparent and telling someone that is in a safe space.
Could you just, I guess, define safe space? Because kind of like everyone's like, when you say safe space, what do you guys, I guess, mean for that? What would a safe space look like?
Safe space for me looks like someone who is going to acknowledge your pain and not someone who is going to tell you to just get over it. So when I say safe space, that's what I mean.
Okay.
That's exactly what I mean. Because you have people, that would just get over it. And we are all different. We all deal with things differently. We do not handle setbacks. We do not handle trauma. We do not handle the woes of life the same way. Everybody is different. And I think until we understand that there is no one size that fits all when you're talking about just depression overall, then I feel like we can start to make some progress, right? Until we understand that. So yeah.
Most definitely, because I feel like there's so many myths around depression that makes it sometimes hard for people to kind of cut through the noise. Like, I think one I heard is that, like you said, depression looks the same for everyone, where you said, like, no, that's not true. And that also, I think some people may come up from the myth of therapy is only for like people who really need it, who may be crazy. That's when you go to therapy. And I was like, that's not time you should go. They should have been way before then, before a crisis has happened.
I totally agree. Like, one thing I've realized, Destiny, I'm over the hill now. So I'll let you. But yeah, I'm over the hill. And what I've realized is that the main people that usually say that you don't need no help, or you shouldn't go see a therapist or a social worker or a counselor, are usually people that have trauma themselves that have been unresolved. They too need to speak to somebody, or get you a journal and just, I call it, I like to call, I literally have like a ton of journals around my house, but I call it, that's my form of therapy. That's one, hold on, I take that back. That's one of my many forms of therapy. But that's like one that I seem to really always go back to. And I call it puking on paper, just getting it all out. Just, just get it out. Cause like once you get it out, it feel bad, but once you get it out, you feel so much better. And just write those emotions down and say what it is that you want to say how you feel or whatever. So, I find that people that tell people don't get help, those are usually people who have not dealt with their stuff, but they want you to go around and operate under that umbrella of depression, oppression, and suppression, and you desire to be free, and you can't be free because you feel like you'll be judged for going to get help or going to get therapy or going to see a psychiatrist or whatever that looks like for you. Like you'll be judged. I don't know if we are not privy to this thing. It's called HIPAA. It's called HIPAA laws. I don't know why we feel like we need to tell any and everybody that would listen that we going to therapy or we seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a priest based off some stuff. That you no, you nobody has to know that you are getting help for depression unless you out here just telling the world about it, right? So like you have your privacy there if you want it. So get you some help if you feel like you need it. Like if you don't feel like you need it, you said something about therapy, like, people say, oh, that's for crazy people. Like therapy is to keep you from going off the deep end. Is like that's a great preventative measure. Like, so if I had to, suggest anything, like that's a great preventative tool. But yeah, so because truth be told, the therapist out here getting therapy. After we get through dumping off on them and telling them, I don't feel good about myself, that my husband left me with these kids and I don't feel good and I didn't achieve my life goals. And, I was traumatized when I was 13 or when I was 10 or just whatever, people need to deal with this stuff. They're walking around and they need to deal with this stuff, Destiny. So, but yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like really just making where depression is not something that should be normalized, but at least it's something that does happen, and you're not weak for it. There's nothing wrong with you, strange wrong with you. It's just something that has happened. And now what do we do now? What do we do to help ourselves from there? Mm-hmm. And so with the title of your book, Regaining Your Vision, how does depression shape your worldview? Like, how do you lose vision with depression?
You lose your vision. Some people are not even able to dream because their dreams are cut short when they are small or they're young. They're spoken over negatively by the people that are supposed to protect them the most, their parents or their teachers or their loved ones or their caregivers, right? So that's one way you can lose your vision, and just life in general, life choices and the consequences of those choices and actions, right? And, just setbacks in life and not being where you want to be in life. And so how depression has really changed my view in saying all of that is knowing that you are not by yourself. There are a whole lot of people who know exactly how you feel, unfortunately, because that's not a good feeling. But it's just to remind you that when that little voice comes in your head to say, nobody knows how I feel, nobody knows. No. Because according to the World Health Organization, there's a whole world out here that knows exactly how you feel. And you're not alone at all. So that's changed my worldview to know that that there's not a single segment of the population who is just depressed and everybody else is doing good, and because they belong to this group or they're able to afford this or they're able to afford that or they're living in this neighborhood or they have these opportunities. Depression does not discriminate. It does not have a specific group or a specific age. a specific gender. It does not work like that. Depression doesn't care who it victimizes. It just wants whoever it can chew up and not spit out. Right? So yeah, it's changed my worldview in saying that there's a lot of people that deal with it, and it's more common than it is uncommon. And there is light on the other side of anxiety. Oh, excuse me. I guess anxiety too. Depression and anxiety. So yeah, it's light on the other side of that tunnel.
Can you, I guess, give us a example or a story about how you regain your vision through depression? How was that kind of that journey like for you?
You want like a specific story or an example or something like that?
Specific story.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'll give you one that's actually in the book. I was going through a depressive episode and at that time, and I was just really, really just sad, and I was upset, and I was going through a breakup at that time, and my great grandma had passed, and I had got sick physically and everything, and I just really was just at a low place. And I remember being in the bed and I was crying out and I was just like, God, I don't feel like I matter in this moment. Like I just don't matter, And I remember there was a quiet, still voice. And it just said, "You're enough." And that was it. And it was like at that moment, I knew that there was more that I had to do. I had to get up. I had to wipe my face. I knew that I was not a mistake. I knew that I mattered to the God that created me. I knew that I had a purpose. It was like a lot of different emotions happened in that one moment when I heard that voice, right? And so after that happened, I was more determined to finish the book because that was one of the parts of the process of going through the book. I I was getting depressed and sad, like, oh my gosh, like I really dealt with that, like I really, you know what I'm saying, I really allowed that to happen, right? So but yeah, so after having that experience, I just began to listen to like more motivational stuff. I began to get outside more. I began to expose myself to more sunlight. I began to, go to the park, take my dog, for a walk. Like he would do more exercising than me, and I do a little exercise with him and stuff. And it's just like I just started to feel better and come out of that funk and get up every single day. It was hard, but every day I did it despite how I felt. And I knew then, as I was going through the process, that there was healing on the other side of that journey.
That's amazing right there. Just that still small voice. So the whole events happen next. And now, by the grace of God, we have your book out in the world, the audio version, and soon to be a republished version back out in the world. Whew. Chills right there. And so it's been so much fun on the podcast. It's been dropping gems all night long here. However, as all good things, we're coming to a small close. So as every way I like to end the podcast is our fire round. And so here's our first things first. For young writers listening, what is one piece of advice you would give them on their author journey?
One piece of advice I would give them on their author's journey is to, that is definitely a fire question. Trust your creativity. Write. If you want to make music, write. Don't let money be your motivator. Create, 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 create. Do not stop creating. So if that's my one piece of advice, is to create.
Awesome. What book do you recommend for authors or writers to read?
Whoa, that's a good one. Okay, so I literally had like a list of my favorite books. Yeah, but I think it's in the other room because I was gonna do the podcast in the other room. I kid you not. The first one is going to be Deadly Emotions. That's one of my favorite books to read. It talks about the mind-body connection, and it's just generally a good book. They have a version that came out in like the late 80s, and then they have another one that came out maybe like 2012. I would say get the old version. Like, yeah, you can go you can go and get the old version. I like the old version better than the new version. Deadly Emotions is one. The second book I would say is Why Don't I Do What I Know Is Good for Me? That's the name of it. It's by B.J. Gallagher. She's a social worker. She's a clinical licensed social worker. And if you don't get therapy, this is the book for you because this book is a 1-year journey. It's like 52 weeks or something like that. Like that's a great alternative for people who may not have the insurance or may not can afford therapy. I got that book from my local from the local library, from Tuscaloosa Public Library. And when I tell you that book, yeah. So those two books, it was another book that I wanted to recommend people to read if they want to understand. Like I really love like international affairs and things like that. That's a passion that I have on the side. So The Road to 9/11 is an amazing book. I think they ended up doing like a docuseries or something. But yeah, I very rarely have books that are page turners, even though I have like a huge bookshelf with like a lot of books on it. All of them aren't page turners, but those three for me, and I have more books that are like I really like that are page turners, but those three for me, I would highly recommend. So yeah, it kind of that last book, The Road to 9/11, kind of helps give you a backstory of the Middle Eastern region, like the backstory of that whole different era and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so yeah.
So what was the name of the book that's like 52 weeks with it, along with it?
Why don't I do what I know is good for me?
Okay, then. So that's a good one.
Why don't I do what is good for me? It's by B.J. Gallagher.
Awesome. And also, where can people connect with you?
Okay, so my pseudonym is Author K.L. Sterling. And on all platforms, except for, I think, TikTok, I think it's Words of Wisdom. But on Facebook, you can just type in Author K.L. Sterling. I'll come right up. I changed my business page, my office page to Words of Encouragement. Not really sure if I'm going to keep that. But I may just change it back to Author K.L. Sterling. Hadn't really thought about that. But yeah, all I have to do is Google Author K.L. Sterling and I will pop right up. And yeah, they can follow me on Facebook. That's when I'm most active.
Awesome. And also, you do have an upcoming book release.
I do. I have an upcoming book release. I don't have a date set yet because the editor has it. And she and I both agreed that it's missing that off factor. Now, if you write books and you know when your book ain't hitting the way it's supposed to hit. You know when it's missing something. When you as a reader, you know when it don't have enough seasoning on it. So what I've decided to do was I've made that public service announcement on my Facebook page, and I have decided to send out an email to people on the email list. As a way to let them know that the book will also be pushed back because it was supposed to be released recently. So yeah, it's called How to Spot a Counterfeit Friend.
And where can people sign up for your email list?
They actually, in order to get on the email list, and that's a tip I forgot to tell you earlier. When y'all go to these book events, make sure you have a piece of paper and make sure that you have some snacks on your table. That's a good marketing tool I forgot to tell you about. People love free snacks, and tell them they can get them free snacks if they sign the email list. But they can sign up for the email list if they go to my website and download the free ebook. Regaining Your Vision Through Depression is a free ebook. So when you sign up to get the free ebook, you automatically are added to the email list. So in order to get the information on how to spot a counterfeit friend, because we all got one or had one or experienced one, in order to get that book, you got to sign up for free ebook. So that's how you do it.
Awesome. And we probably need to come back and talk about marketing and sales and how to use your email list, because that's the most powerful thing you have as an author.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree.
So you heard it here, folks. The wonderful author, Nikishea Robinson, aka KL Sterling. You can find her on most platforms. She's most active on Facebook. And until next time, thank you all so much. And thank you so much, Nikishea, for joining on the podcast.
You're welcome.
I'll see you guys next time on Pen by Design. Thank you for listening to Pen by Design. Links are in the show notes of all items mentioned in today's show. Don't forget to pick up your free self-publishing guide to start your author journey in the show notes. Pen your own story designed by you. Catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.